When was the last time you did nothing? The last time you just sat on the grass? No agenda, no specific focus, no distractions. Just to let your mind wander. Perhaps, more importantly, when was the last time you felt like you could? We live in a world drowning in stimulation. The need for ever-increasing engagement is real, and I found myself very much a victim of this phenomenon. I'd be considered by most to be pretty high functioning, pretty productive, but I can't sit and watch a movie without wanting to check my phone or getting distracted by something. There's this hum of anxiety that just constantly nags at me, pushing me to stay occupied. Like, I know it's counterproductive, but my brain just says to me, fuck, if you're doing nothing, you're wasting time. This fear, coupled with the human need for dopamine-driven activities, I believe has led us astray. Ultimately, in a world of constant stimulation, we're losing touch with the simple joy of boredom and detachment. And I would hypothesize it's affecting our well-being much more than we think. The idea for this video came about when I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, and he said, "Hey bro, do you ever feel like you just can't switch off? Like you've got to be always doing something, or you're just not making the best use of your time?" This really hit me pretty hard, because I remember just that morning, I had an hour or two free, and I remember the anxiety of not really knowing what to do with the space. So before we get to my experiment, here's what I think is happening. Dopamine is a molecule that is responsible for reward and anticipation. And whilst it's essential for our survival, and has been, the digital age has brought in a bit of a monster. And they've managed to harness its power to create this just endless loop of craving. Traditionally, something tangible would have been rewarded with dopamine. Physical work or a stroll through the woods, for example. This small hit of dopamine would have motivated us to do that thing again. But with the digital age, the level and the rate at which we can get these rewards has exceeded anything we ever thought possible, or ever knew possible. Suddenly, a stroll through the woods isn't enough. Or a movie we once enjoyed, well, it bores us. We have this sort of, constant need to stack behaviors with other dopamine driving activities. Our culture pushes us to be aware of everything. Every issue, every trend, the flood of information is overwhelming and kind of leads us to a superficial understanding of the issues at best. And with this, I think, comes a constant sense of guilt or inadequacy. I have to care about everything, but I don't have the capacity to. Imagine if I said I didn't care about climate change. I'd be a heretic. But what if it was just from a sheer lack of capacity to absorb another concern than a genuine lack of feeling for a real issue? It's no secret that technology is driving most of this. With rapid communication and increasingly addictive interfaces, I think we're being left overstimulated and struggling to find fulfillment. So, inspired by my friend's question, I thought I'd embark on an experiment. For 1 week, I'd be allowed to do only 4 things. I could work, I could socialize, I could exercise, or I could sit there and do nothing. The idea being to remove all forms of entertainment, all forms of distraction, and all forms of consumption. That meant no Netflix, no YouTube, no podcasts, no music, nothing. No consumption, be it productive or entertainment. Essentially, I was going to have a lot more time to sit with my thoughts. And it was kind of a spin out. Along the way, I went much deeper down the rabbit hole than I thought possible. One of the key things with this experiment was I found what was contributing to my well-being and what was actually taking away from it. Like, I found that I just desperately missed listening to music in the afternoons. I also found myself fantasizing about a slow morning, sitting with a cup of coffee, and one of my favorite architecture YouTube channels. They were pretty simple things. But there was a lot of things that I really didn't miss, like scrolling Instagram mindlessly or using social media. So often I'd get home, I'd be tired, so I'd open Instagram and suddenly an hour had passed and I'd just sat there watching stupid mindless videos. Additionally, I noticed how much time I'd spent mindlessly consuming self-development content on YouTube. Every spare moment I had would be spent locked into that. Whether I was walking, driving, just standing in line, I was constantly plugged in. And I found these distractions were just clutter. Ultimately, I didn't miss the things that were taking the bulk of my spare time. I found satisfaction in just being slightly uncomfortable. And I found to just sit and be with my thoughts was not as scary as I thought it would be. Now, almost ironically, this week was insanely productive, which I suppose leads me to my next point, is that I discovered just how awesomely powerful boredom is. So let me explain. Our minds, being your consciousness, can withstand boredom to a far greater extent than our brain can. Your brain will literally do anything to prevent it. However, so often it keeps us from doing what we need to do. Picture this. You've got a task that you need to do, that you're supposed to do, could be work, study, paying bills, whatever, but you're procrastinating on it. You sit down to take action, but you just can't do it. Instead, you say, well, you know what, until I feel like it, I'm going to do something else that's productive. So you go and do whatever that thing is. But at the end of all that, you still don't feel like it. And so eventually you give up, just knowing, well, I tried, didn't I? And yeah, I had a pretty productive day anyway. But you didn't get that thing done. This is where we can harness the power of boredom. Our brain just cannot tolerate boredom. It needs to be productive and at the very least distracted. But our conscious mind can tolerate it because it's capable of exercising agency. It can sit there and do nothing. So herein lies the solution. You set yourself a rule. You can do one of 3 things. You can sleep to get more energy, you can do the task you need to do, or you can sit there and do absolutely nothing. Yes, even if that means sitting there for 12 hours and wasting a day. If you can do this, your brain will recognize that you are willing to waste a day just to spite it. Given it hates waste above all, it will make you do the work you need to do. Alright, so we've been through a bit. How do we incorporate these lessons into our daily life? So I thought about this, and this is how I will be applying what I learned moving forward. Selective consumption. So first of all, I would encourage you to do this experiment for yourself. Try it out. Reflect on what you genuinely miss. And importantly, what you don't miss. What adds value to your life. Designated time for focused learning. I think it's important to conduct a little bit of an audit of your online and your digital activities. Embrace the single task and avoid dopamine stacking. Just prioritize engaging in one task at a time. It'll be difficult at first, but it is worth it. You'll have much more meaningful and focused interactions. As I mentioned, implement the power of boredom. When there is something that you need to do, you get to do that thing or you do nothing. No distracting yourself with other productivity. You waste the day or you get it done. Take some time for mindful leisure each week. For me, that'll be a lazy morning once a week with a coffee and some artful entertainment. If you do this experiment, you'll discover what would work for you. If you're like me and you're watching this channel, then you're interested in self-development. So spend time engaging with high quality self-development material, but take a proactive approach to the insights you gain. Ensure that your engagement with the material leads to actionable changes in your own life. This speaks to dedicating time to learning and not just mindlessly consuming it whilst you're driving or eating your lunch. Be unavailable part of the day. Take your phone, turn it off during class or work. Be unavailable. It's really difficult, but it is rewarding. And finally is the purposeful stimulation. As I mentioned, I really missed music in the evening. It's something I'll be adding back in. And I'll continue to use a tool from Brain FM for creative flow. However, it's important that these things that you add back in are tools, and they shouldn't just be a crutch for constant stimulation. I realize this has been a bit of a longer video than I would normally do, but I really wanted to explore this. This journey made me realize that these fleeting moments of distraction aren't happiness or contentment. They lack substance, and ultimately, I reckon they contribute to a sense of dissatisfaction. Real joy, at least to me, comes from pursuing activities that enrich our lives tangibly, not chemically. So to leave this with you, in a world flooded by distraction and information, it's crucial to reclaim the power of doing nothing. I think by taking time to understand the interplay between our biology, our culture, and technology, we can reshape our habits and find some contentment in the simplicity. Embrace boredom, reject the need for constant stimulation, and unlock the potential of a focused and present mind. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like and subscribe button. Also, leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you thought. Cheers. Peace. Bye.